Thank you for joining us in Wine Country. I'm Mary Babbitt. Today we're going to go behind the label with Chateau Montelena's father and son team, Jim and Bo Barrett. Besides making highly rated wine, they've got a high-flying hobby. We're going to take off with them in the skies over Wine Country a little later in the show. But first, we're going to meet an accomplished artist who's the toast of Wine Country. In fact, Chateau Montelena is one of his subjects. In gallery, The Art of Wine through the eyes of painter Thomas Arvid.
Time slips away. I know in the morning when I sit down at a canvas, I come walking down, I'm so excited to see the piece in progress. Sit down with a nice hot cup of coffee and I start painting, and I turn around to take a sip of my coffee and it's stone cold.
Thomas Arvid started out like many artists, hoping to make a living with his craft, but he needed a focus.
I wanted to work on a series of paintings that people could relate to based on the color red, a red series.
That series eventually shifted to red wine.
I did my red wine painting, and while I was working on it, somebody bought it right off my easel.
Thomas's still life wine paintings quickly became his calling card. Soon, wineries were sending him their bottles to paint. One of the first was Silver Oak Cellars in Oakville. He worked at a few of Silver Oak's wine dinners, painting while people watched, and from there, the relationship grew.
I started coming out for every wine release, and it's just been huge crowds and a lot of people seeing my work and falling in love with it at the Silver Oak wine release.
For Thomas, who taught himself to paint, the charm of each piece is in the little things.
And those are like the little details that I think draw people really deep into the painting. There's something beautiful about the stain on a cork or even a tear on a label.
The process starts with a photo shoot.
We need some tape here.
So this is really high tech.
I had no idea the cardboard factor was so important.
So our shadow right here, you kind of see our shadow right here has become stronger.
Oh, yeah.
Can you see?
Sure, I can.
And so many people just, it's a glass of wine and they don't see that the reflection of, you can see the corkscrew in it and the stem of the glass. And the more you sit there and look at it, the more you're just like, oh man, that's just so beautiful. Looks good.
A few snapshots later,
Okay, now we're just going to take it.
it's time to choose a photo and clean it up a bit.
Now, why would you want to cut off part of that glass there?
Well, it's not needed for the composition. Like you see how, when you look at the whole space, you see how light it is over here. There's just kind of like there's really nothing going on over there.
From photo shoots to sketching and painting, Thomas has several pieces in production at any given time. We talked him into titling this one with a bottle of Chateau Montelena Cabernet in Wine Country. Has a certain ring to it, doesn't it? This piece was inspired from a shipment of Farniente wine.
You can almost smell the crate.
Yeah, and it's just like you're ready to unload it out of the crate, out of the case, and put it onto the racks in your wine cellar.
Thomas is passionate about art and wine. For him, the two truly go hand in hand.
The winemaker, he's his own artist, has a vision on finishing a project. There's a lot of different steps it takes to making wine. You just don't pick grapes and stick it in a bottle and it becomes wine. I mean, you don't sit down and make wine in one night, and you can't sit down and make a painting the way I make a painting in one night.
Just like a fine wine, fine art takes time. Thomas recently finished the piece you've seen throughout this story. He calls it Best Case Scenario. Pop into a favorite Wine Country gallery for your best case scenario to check out Thomas Arvid's latest work. Napa Valley, Sonoma County, and Robert Mondavi. These are all subjects of photo essays by renowned wine country photographer Andy Katz. His latest project tells the history of Kincannon Vineyard, one of the oldest wineries in the San Francisco Bay Area. In gallery, behind the lens of a wine country shutterbug, capturing the essence of his subjects. Photographer Andy Katz is searching for a picture-perfect subject.
All right.
And he's found one in a baby grape cluster.
It's growing right through this leaf, so it's kind of pretty, basically.
Andy's on one of his first shoots for a book on Kincannon Vineyard.
All right. It's a message of a successful winery that has got a tremendous amount of history and pride and class.
Since we have, so much history here, some 120 years. We'd like to share that with the general public.
Got the cameras.
Vintner Jim Concanon's way of sharing that history
Got the softbox.
is commissioning Andy Katz to create a photo essay.
Ah, smells like a winery. Love it.
Andy arrives for another day of shooting,
Kind of like building a tent.
this time with Jim.
Now I'm ready. Now the magic.
He sets up in the barrel room for a portrait session.
So I think we're gonna have Jim sit right around here.
Andy preps his lights and cameras, and he's ready for action.
There he is.
I wonder what grandfather would say, huh? He's looking
You got the
down.
male model look going on? Come on, my friend. This is good. All right. There we go. Now you're looking good.
Jim Concanon's grandfather founded the winery in 1883.
Grandfather was the first Irish immigrant to ever make wine in America.
Jim loves to talk and he loves to be expressive. He's always using his hands, so I just let him go. The book is going to have little vignettes of him kind of telling this little story. So we're going to go over to this arbor over here, which is actually very pretty. There's some table grapes growing down.
The Concanon story is rich in images.
That'll be a good shot of you.
On this day, Andy's shooting the winery arbor at sundown.
That's when you get the absolutely incredible light that I love so much.
Some shots take more effort than others.
The vineyard shot, the main vineyard from Concanon, was kind of fun because there was a bunch of crates, and I had to climb the crates that weren't that stable. It's like surfing. Anything to get the shot.
Getting the shot also means waiting around for the right moment.
Now it's really, really pretty. It should get prettier in just a couple of minutes. We have about, I'd say, 10 more minutes. We had a nice sunset. We got a little orange glow going on. The vine's got some nice highlights on it. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. I think it's gonna work out really well. It is now 20 of 7 as we speak. We've been here for about half an hour.
Andy captures sunrise over the vineyard. He also snaps photos of pickers.
Close-ups of their hands, close-ups of the grapes. Yeah, good. The pickers were there, and they just had their picking knife next to a grape, and the sun was warming everything up, and just this big glow.
That's an important picture in the book, the gate, so we really need to use it.
When it comes to deciding what photos make the book, Andy works with designer Ellen Riondo.
I probably shot several thousand photographs, and out of that, about 90 of them are going to end up in the book. I think I'm going to print the cover, because I really need to see what that's going to look like in total detail.
Andy prints a check of the cover image, Concanon's Gate.
All right. I think that looks really nice. I might saturate the blue just a little bit more.
Next, the book is printed in Italy.
Mondadori is in Verona, and I believe they're the biggest printer in Italy.
Andy and Ellen are on site for a press check, making adjustments in color as each page goes to print.
You just keep on going until you get it to exactly the way you want it.
The final result, a bound copy of Concanon, a story told in pictures.
The story is actually Jim's story.
A view from behind the lens in wine country. When you go wine tasting, you can get there by car, by bike, or splurge and get a limo. But we've got one better. How about a wine country tour in the back of an antique fire truck? On this adventure in wine country, you can feel the wind in your hair and see vineyards and wineries in a whole new way.
You want to see the motor? Our flagship truck is a 1933 Seagrave. The radiator's fake. A 70-year-old radiator wouldn't do the job. We've got a special fan we put in there to cool the motor. When they built this truck in '33, they delivered it to Stephenville, Texas in 1934. Our second truck is a 1947 American LaFrance. That truck was repowered with a V6 engine. We're up to Ferrari Carano winery.
Jack Courtwright's the owner of the Big Red Engine Company. He offers tours of the Sonoma Valley wine country on antique fire engines.
We sort of mosey along in the countryside, letting people have a view of beautiful Sonoma County. We have to leave enough room for those steps.
Hold it, Jack. Hold it there. That's pretty close, I think.
Those of you who would like to see the gardens here at Ferrari Carano, it's absolutely gorgeous, and you can walk through them on your way to your tasting room. For those of you who can't wait, go directly to the tasting room.
Is this a Sauvignon? Oh, my favorite.
The experience of tasting wine at a tasting room. Are we aboard?
We are aboard.
And then getting in the truck that's open air and driving to the next tasting room. The experience of that is as enjoyable as the wine tasting itself because of the beautiful countryside.
Our next stop is Lambert Bridge Winery.
The steps. Perfect.
Oh, thank you. How does it compare to a standard limo drive through wine country?
I think limos are a little stuffy.
Boys like toys and fire engines.
They seem to have a great time back there.
You get to really enjoy the countryside.
Especially fire engines.
Pointing at the countryside.
The beautiful scenery.
Waving at passing cars and people.
You're riding around, you're up higher than everyone.
It's fun, it's great.
You go by the bicyclists and the bicyclists wave at you.
It's so fabulous.
It's fun to go from winery to winery.
It's like being a big giant convertible. I really like it.
And to get special treatment.
Pretty darn good.
These may be old fire trucks, but they offer a whole new way to see wine country.
These old trucks bring out the kid in all of us.
This is a cork, and while you may have pulled your share out of bottles before, did you know there's more to a cork than meets the eye? For instance, most corks are tested before they're found fit enough to put into a bottle. Join me on a Wine Insider's tour and discover everything you've ever wanted to know about corks.
The average cork cost is about 20 cents a piece. Higher end wineries usually spend about 60 cents a cork up to 80 cents a cork.
You may never give that cork you pull out of a wine bottle a second thought, but the folks at Cork Supply USA, like Heinz Heidenreich, think about corks all the time.
Before the customer actually pulls that cork out, it has been looked at probably 4 times.
The natural cork making process starts in Portugal, where bark is harvested from cork trees. Containers full of about 2 million corks each are shipped to Cork Supply USA.
Cork Supply is producing natural corks and selling natural corks to the U.S. market.
One of Cork Supply's biggest tasks, testing corks for TCA.
TCA is a compound called trichloroanisole that gives you that corked flavor in the wine that you sometimes experience. And we go through an extreme process to eliminate that.
At any given time, Cork Supply USA has nearly 60 million corks in its warehouse. To keep TCA in check, a cork must pass many tests.
Each steps we check for TCA. We cannot say that all the corks that we supply to the wineries are TCA free. It's not 0%, but it's a very low level.
Here, 50 corks per batch soak in a neutral white wine. Samples are poured off and then tested for cork taint. Corks also get shaken around and subjected to all sorts of quality controls before they're ever ready to seal a bottle. After testing, finishing begins. Step 1, dedusting.
Dedusting removes the dust particles from the voids of the cork.
Dust-free corks are then printed with winery logos from copper dies.
Once we have the die on here on the saddle, we put it into the machine right here. And that die, we apply the ink to the die, and the ink would roll over the cork and imprint on the corks. one cork at a time.
You can see him chugging along.
Yes, you can see him come in, and he go through, and it drop into the bin over there.
Next, corks are ready to be coated with paraffin and silicone.
These are our coating machines. So what you have at your house is a dryer, right? So envision a dryer, a large drum. We do 10,000 corks at a time, and you can hear the corks tumbling down the inside. And as we tumble the corks, we apply liquid paraffin and liquid silicone onto the corks. It takes about 20 minutes for one cycle to get done. And this is the main process for the lubrication of the corks.
10,000 corks in there?
10,000 corks at a time, yes.
It's a huge spin cycle.
Yes, we love it.
Paraffin seals corks. Silicone helps corks slide into the bottle during corking at the winery. And it helps you get the cork out easily with a corkscrew. Finally, corks are bagged and sealed. They're boxed up for delivery to wineries to seal bottles until you're ready to pop the cork.
We visited lots of beautiful wineries for this show, but few can compete with the natural beauty at Pacific Star Winery on the California coast. The winery is so close to the ocean, the owner says the sea salt actually affects how she makes her wine. Behind the label, winemaking by the sea at Pacific Star Winery.
On a remote stretch of Highway 1 in Northern California, far from traditional wine country, a small winery's become an unusual outpost for winemaking by the sea.
I had a winery in the Napa Valley for about 15 years, and I grew up in this area, and I wanted to come back. I was too far away from the ocean in Napa.
If anyone can claim to be on the frontier of winemaking, it's Sally Ottison's Pacific Star Winery, hugging the cliffs of the Mendocino coast.
I had no idea really what the conditions would be. I thought that they would be similar to Napa winemaking, but in fact, they're quite different.
It's beautiful. The coastline is unbelievable. It throws you off a little bit because you don't see the vineyards.
In fact, the closest you'll come to vineyards around here are some craggy old vines Sally's got scattered about just for fun.
No, they're not alive. People do think they're alive, but they're very old and very dead. I work with growers over the hill about an hour away and bring the grapes over, and we do everything else here.
Making wine by the sea calls for working in some pretty unique conditions.
Everything rusts.
Conditions few others in the wine industry ever face.
My barrels become coated in salt. And I discovered this because I was using twice as much topping wine here as I was in Napa.
Sally says sea salt wicks moisture out of her barrels.
Actually, I should always over-top it.
She has to top them off or pour in extra wine, more than most winemakers.
No, I don't think it has any effect on the taste of the wine, although it certainly must concentrate the wine. There are people who say that they can taste salt in my wine. And I say, yes, but can you hear the ocean in the glass?
Sally rarely filters her wine because she says her barrels sit on top of cavernous underground sea caves that filter the wine for her.
The sediment falls out naturally because of the pounding of the waves and the wave action into the caves underneath this land.
Regardless of what makes the wine unique, Pacific Star seems to have fans among its visitors.
When you hear the term handcrafted wines, this is what you really think about.
Just the setting and everything just makes it, you know, a happy place, I think.
We spent, I think, a good 2 hours here the first time we were here, just looking at the coastline and everything. It's fun.
There is nothing calm about this ocean. I'm not sure why it ever got named the Pacific.
As for Sally, she plans to keep on doing what she's doing, manning her out-of-the-way winery.
There's no place on earth like this.
Making wine by the sea.
Wine country is chock full of artists. We've seen everything from painters to candle makers. But we found one sculptor in the Santa Cruz Mountains wine country who prefers a chainsaw to a chisel. In gallery, meet the man who finds his raw material in the ground.
my arsenal. Earplugs, you need them.
If there's one thing you can say about artist Gary Stevens,
Come on, Bear. Let's go. Let's go get him.
he is not the quiet type. Today, Gary is cutting a piece of redwood from the base of a tree that was logged and felled more than 100 years ago in this redwood forest in the Santa Cruz Mountains wine country of Northern California.
I think I got her. Well, I gotta grab this bar and I'm gonna see if I can pry it loose. There it goes.
Gary intends to use the wood for a sculpture.
Woohoo!
It's tricky getting it out of the ground,
That one.
but he says redwood is worth all the hard work.
That has been locked up for 2,000 years. You can see where the thyme and the patinas started running through it. It just adds so much character and so much beauty to the actual form. This is really a great piece. Come on, let's go. Let's head on back, come on. This piece is way too heavy to get out of here right now. I've got a piece back in the studio we're gonna go start work on. This came out of the canyon, the next stump over. It's a really nice piece of wood.
Gary's art is sculptured vessels. He works with many types of wood, but redwood is his favorite.
I'm really conscious about trying to take and use only woods that nature's provided for me, not by man removing them. So I think the best woods you can find out there are the ones that come down naturally.
A sculpture can take up to a year to complete, depending on its size and complexity. The smaller works start around $3,000 a piece.
I like to try to capture the movement that is always, there's constant movement in nature. I've always been fascinated with shells along the ocean. We're going to start right here and we're going to bore a hole all the way to the bottom. I work on the inside of the piece. I do the complete form from the inside out. It's kind of backwards from most sculptors that work from the outside. Now that we got the hole to depth, we can go to start to work with the chainsaw. I think one of the really neat things about it, it's a wood that will last thousands of years. So each piece I know that I create out of redwood will be here long after I'm gone, and they were here long before I even got here. We've done the initial roughing out with the chainsaw. You can see we've taken it down close to the final form that I'm trying to get, and then we're going to go after it with the grinders.
Like many artists, Gary continues to hold a day job in construction management, which is, of course, a natural fit.
Now that we have the inside shaped where I want it, we're going to actually start to remove the outside. We're going to match the outside to the inside, which is a process that takes time. Really, nothing goes to waste. Even the blocks, these little pieces that come off, actually have really beautiful grain in them. So we actually save these. There's actually a jewelry maker in Canada that I've shipped pieces to that makes different brooches, and you can use all the small pieces.
Although he works a chainsaw with ease, Gary says this step is, in fact, the trickiest one.
This is when you have to take the most care in what you're doing, because you take off too much and you go into the piece that you've been shaping, and you get to see a grown man cry and get to start all over on a new piece of wood. So as you can see, the process is going to start slowing down because what we have to do here is we're going to gauge that piece and we're going to make sure that we're not removing too much. So we're at a point now where we're going to have to stop work on this. I have some pieces in my drying room that have been in there for about 5 months that are ready to sand, and that's the next stage. We're actually going to go get those now and start to work. This piece has been in here for about 5 months. It's dry, it's ready to go and get sanded. But this piece right here is a piece that I've been sanding on for the last couple of days. It's almost ready for finish, which is probably the most fun part for me because then I get to actually see what it's going to look like.
This sculpture is maple. One of the other types of wood Gary likes to use.
Machines can only do so much. You end up having to do the final sanding by hand. This is the fun part. We're going to put the finish on the piece now. It's a hand-applied and hand-rubbed finish that will be going on. This piece here will probably get 5 coats over the next 5 days. It's going to transform this very plain piece of wood into something beautiful. Now that's about all we can do with that today, but what I'd like to be able to do is take you into the gallery and actually show you some pieces that are the same wood that are finished. So this is a finished piece of the maple that we were finishing out there on the lathe. You can see it's got a much different appearance now with multiple coats on it and polished up. This piece is signed, dated, with its title on it, and it's ready to go.
Gary's works can be found in galleries in cities across the country, including Miami, San Francisco, and Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Nothing goes to waste.
But for Gary, he makes his home here, in the redwood forests of wine country.
You might think most winemakers spend their day in the vineyards or maybe the cellar blending wine. But many vintners have a hobby that has nothing to do with wine. In fact, some of their pursuits can even be a little extreme. Behind the label at Domaine Chandon, meet the winemaker who chills out by taking gnarly mountain bike rides over wine country trails.
Just got to get these shoes on tight.
Safety check.
Suiting up.
Helmet. Helmet. I gotta pump up my tire.
And pumping up. They're ready to roll.
Usually at the end of the day, I like to just blast out of the office and get up on the trail and just enjoy each other's company and have a great time. It's pretty gnarly and wicked. It's got some great sort of uphill climbs that are really strenuous. We don't feel any burn at all. We're just supreme athletes.
Supreme athletes they may not be, but for Domaine Chandon winemaker Wayne Donaldson and business tech manager Andrew Leckie, enjoying the ride is the name of the game.
The trail itself starts out with a relatively steep climb up to a little ridge. One of my great releases in life is mountain biking, and I really just enjoy being outdoors. It's not a long course, but it's put into the property here across great stratas of granite rock that make it very technical. I'm lucky if I complete the circuit in half an hour, but it's only 2.5 miles, so it's rather slow going.
It's all good fun.
It usually takes me a little while to sort of get into the groove.
These co-workers meet up on a regular basis to hit the trails at Domaine Chandon.
We have a mountain biking course here that was created about 4 years ago. It was actually designed for the World Cup Championships of mountain biking, and we conducted and sponsored the event and installed the track here. When you think you've got right to the top, there's just this another little section that just bust your ass. It's great.
It really is fantastic and really rewarding when you get to the top of that hill and really sort of look at the view and the vista. It's fantastic.
Heading downhill, the guys pick up speed. Andy says Wayne's the better biker.
It's hard to keep up with him sometimes.
Wayne would disagree.
Every now and then I give him a bit of an elbow and sort of knock him out, but you know, I've got to do that to slow him down.
It's pretty gnarly up through there, but then there's also a couple of nice flat sections that you can recover nicely on too.
Good job.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was cool.
They're not done yet, but the end of the ride is in sight.
It's just magic. I mean, how many people have that opportunity, you know, just to get out there straight after work and let your mind run free and get down to the dirt and the vines and have some fun. It's great. That was fun.
Awesome.
Oh.
Oh boy, man. Now it is time for that drink.
Yes, it is.
A reward for all that hard work? Mini bottles of Domaine Chandon Bubbly.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Sure, mountain biking's a blast, but Wayne's not ready to give up his day job.
I enjoy both, so I'm going to keep the balance where it is.
Wayne began his winemaking career in Australia and spent much of it at the Domaine Chandon Sparkling Wine House there.
The winery in Australia is located in the Yarra Valley, and I was the winemaker there for 11 years.
Now at Domaine Chandon in Napa Valley, mountain biking reflects his winemaking style.
I suppose the risks that we take out on the course are really paralleled into some of the innovation that we're trying with some of the wines here at Chandon.
Like a sparkling red wine made with Pinot Noir and Zinfandel, or Pinot Meunier, a single varietal wine of a grape usually used to blend in sparkling wine. Wayne is not afraid to take those risks. Visiting the winery, you can sample the wines and the outdoor lifestyle Wayne enjoys.
Conviviality and life, just to enjoy people's company, enjoy the great wines, let them be part of the personal experience.
Especially when you can work and play in wine country.
What do you have to say for yourself?
If you travel a lot, you know recommendations from locals can be priceless. Napa Valley is no different, of course. We discovered a restaurant many locals frequent, but few tourists have heard of. At this chef's table, great food is on the menu, served up by one of the most unique characters in wine country.
Look at him! Hanky! Hi, Sweet Pete. Come on, Hanky!
You might be a bit surprised to find us visiting a chef in her backyard of all places, but with Kelly Novak, it makes perfect sense.
I started thinking about what I was going to make for today, and I just have to go out and see what's available and then just go from there.
Kelly grows produce here for her restaurant.
These are called Little Gem.
Today, Little Gem butter lettuce.
No eating my sunflowers, okay?
Is on the menu.
This is so delicious, and you can serve like the entire head. Ooh, that's what we call the dog and pony show. Right, Nachi?
If there's one thing you should know about Kelly, aside from the fact she's a chef, she's opinionated, particularly about a certain large SUV.
I'm preparing myself with all the ammo I can use, and this is one of my favorites. If I see one driving by, I will give it the official Hummer salute.
Kelly herself drives a 1960 Volkswagen.
We are headed to Kelly's No Bad Days Cafe, which is located in downtown Napa.
She admits it doesn't get great gas mileage, but she says it's still better than her nemesis.
Look it's a big frickin' beast. F you.
Don't say we didn't warn you.
Oh my God, it's another one. Look at it. F-U-H-2. All right, here we are.
Kelly's No Bad Days Cafe is not your typical wine country restaurant. Then again, Kelly's not your typical wine country chef.
Mr. Whittle, what is it that you do? Well, let me show you. Come with me. Follow me, please. Do you know what Mr. Whittle does? Would you like to know? I bet you would like to know.
I would like to.
Would you?
Yes.
All righty. Ready? People are always like, do you keep that up on the bar? I'm like, if people don't like it, they can leave.
But the vast majority don't leave. They like the offbeat atmosphere and say the food, like the butter lettuce salad from Kelly's garden, keeps them coming back.
Your food is really, really delicious.
I've been here 4 times now. This is my 4th time in, and I brought Mom with me.
It's been fantastic. It's been wonderful.
I think it has a lot of charm.
Somebody hid them again from me. Robert, they're probably in the walk-in.
Behind the scenes,
not in here.
The cafe is just as colorful as it is out front.
I found them. They were in the shower. Austin Power says, don't piss me off. This one's really good.
Spend an evening at Kelly's and you'll see
you have to wear these. Thanks.
None of this is at all out of the ordinary.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Shinji.
It's just another day at Kelly's No Bad Days Cafe.
Hello and welcome. We're in wine country and I'm Mary Babbitt. Of course, wine country's known for its great food and wine, but it's also a fun place to go on an adventure. Later, we'll take you kayaking where you can come face to face with seals and otters. But first, we're here at Armida Winery in Sonoma County, where they've got a vintner who put a skull and crossbones on his label. Behind the label, a winery that makes a Zinfandel called Poison. Inside this trophy store,
we start out with masking the bottle.
The last thing you might expect to find are bottles of wine. But that's exactly what proprietor Dennis Wilkinson has his hands on. His shop, DNS Awards and Engraving, is in the Sonoma County wine country. Instead of engraving a trophy, he's prepping a bottle for labeling. Poison isn't a potion, it's a Dry Creek Valley Zinfandel made by the Sonoma County winery Armida.
We'll lay the bottle out on a cloth and we'll put the mask on and roll it on and then peel the protective film off, and then we'll roll it again to make sure there's no air bubbles, and we'll tape it.
Dennis is getting bottles ready for engraving. Armida's Reserve Poison has an etched skull and crossbones for its label. The next step is the actual engraving.
We've got a batch of bottles masks. Now it's time to start etching.
Etching is done with a sandblaster. Lights out, gloves on, and Dennis starts the sandblasting.
The pressure of the sandblaster is typically around 65 psi, and so that will very rapidly cut through and into the glass. There's no room for error on sandblasting because if you knock the mask off, you ruin the bottle. We use the heavy rubber gloves because that way it protects my hand from the blast. Because we use very high pressure, about 65 psi. And the compound we use is a silicon carbide, and it's very, very sharp. It's not sand as you would see at the beach. It's a special compound for blasting and eating away glass.
Dennis uses the nozzle almost like a paintbrush.
It's a concentrated nozzle about the size of a dime. And as I'm blasting, I try to use the same pattern all the time. That way I know that I have the same even depths and don't miss any pieces. Each bottle has to be done, it's all done by hand, one at a time. There's no machine that can actually do it. And each bottle takes about a minute to a minute and a half. So that's the last one etched. Now we get to go paint them. The nasty apron. This is the blood. 186 red is the number of it. We call it blood red. It's close to the real blood color as we can get.
Dennis pours paint into the spray gun.
The spray painting process is done with an airbrush. We hold the bottle in a little foam to keep overspray from going on the text that's silk screened on the back of the bottle. Then we spray them.
The paint fills in the etched word poison and the skull and crossbone design.
Then put them in a rack and let them dry for a couple days before we clean them.
Once these painted bottles dry,
we're ready to clean them up and wax them.
then Dennis seals the cork with red wax.
We try to get the wax to run down to look like blood dripping down the bottle.
He completes the poison look by dipping the bottlenecks in hot red wax.
Try to get it even and then allow it to start its drip. Then we stand it up and put it on the counter, and then natural gravity does the dripping.
But there's one more step before the bottle of poison is ready to sell. Wooden coffins hold each bottle. The end result? A memorable bottle of wine, hand-etched and hand-painted in wine country.
NASCAR is one of the country's fastest growing sports. So what's that got to do with wine, you ask? Well, it turns out today's NASCAR spectators drink more wine than beer. That's a fact they love here at Bennett Lane Winery because Bennett Lane is helping to drive the connection between wine and NASCAR. Behind the label, we go into the pit with the only NASCAR team fully sponsored by a winery.
Infineon is a road course. It's a little over 2-mile road course. We absolutely are the only car out there that has grapes painted on it.
Randy Lynch is the owner of the Lynch Racing NASCAR team, sporting the number 2.
We've won 5 times with the Bennett Lane Winery Ford.
And he's also the owner of Bennett Lane Winery in Napa Valley.
We're located here in the upper part of the Napa Valley, which is cab country. We have a Napa cab and a reserve cab, and we have a blend we call Maximus, which is Cabernet and Syrah and Merlot.
Bennett Lane certainly looks and feels like a traditional winery, but the NASCAR connection takes it to a new level.
Well, going to work. I was a crew chief, and my specialty was making a 427 Ford engine go real fast.
After a few years in the wine business, Randy decided to get back into racing.
We were the first winery ever to sponsor an Nextel Cup car at Infineon, right here in the wine country.
And you won this for
we won
a relay, was this? Or
This was a race down in Bakersfield, California. It was the last race ever won on a very historic track. Now, if you look real close, you can see all the parts move as I turn this belt. It's not your average trophy.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
It's Sonoma Carneros fruit from San Giacomo Vineyard. We're very fortunate to be in a position to blend both passions together and have it work.
The relationship with wine country and NASCAR seems to be paying off.
The fan base has grown to 75 million, and that equates to wine drinkers. And I think there are a lot of wine drinkers as we see them coming into their winery all the time.
Okay.
And on any given day,
These are PhD cameras. Push your dummy.
lucky visitors might just get to see the Bennett Lane race car up close.
We have tanks here as well as outside. And we also have our Grand National West race car here.
Nice.
I just happened to be so lucky on my visit today.
600 horsepower?
600, yes.
Wow. Look at that.
You want to take it for a drive?
You wouldn't let me do that.
There's only one seat, so you're on your own.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
But first, I have to suit up.
With the coin and the grapes?
Yeah, the coin, the grapes.
Look at me. Get a load of me.
Okay.
I'm nervous.
Oh, you'll be fine.
You know, my experience thus far is driving a mom van, so nothing I've done has prepared me to drive one of these things.
Oh, now I'm nervous.
You should be.
Getting in means climbing in through the window.
I'm in. Oh, man.
Once I put on the helmet, I'm set.
Okay, I think.
My My foot's on the pedal, but...
Well, that's a start.
Can I try again?
Yes, on the second try, we have to go farther than a foot. Okay.
Second try, it's not a fast start, but at least it's a start.
She did it. You're a race car driver.
And it seems a few Bennett Lane visitors think so too.
It felt really good.
Yeah.
Oh my, are you a professional driver?
I am.
No.
Could you tell?
No.
I am. You know that girl, Danica?
Yeah.
Forget about her.
You're the one.
I'm the new Danica. Yeah.
I gotta get a picture of you. Hold on. I gotta get a picture of this.
What do you want?
That's
Thumbs
it.
up?
That's it. You rock. You rock.
That's what I do for all the photographs.
So you're gonna be the new idol
I'm gonna be
on
the
the
new
track. I love it. I mean, I gotta get my.
Totally could fall out of this thing.
Even though Randy gives me high marks.
Congratulations. You are a NASCAR. You are a NASCAR driver now.
I'm totally sold on that.
Yeah.
That was really fun.
I think I'll keep my day job and leave NASCAR driving to the pros.
We're here at Symphony Raceway in Napa Valley.
The Lynch Racing Team is testing 2 new cars.
We're here shaking them down, making sure everything works right on them. We'll try to make them faster.
You can't miss the bright yellow car with grapes painted on it. Mike David is the driver in Bennett Lane number 2.
It stands out. It's one of the brightest cars out there. A lot of people have noticed it and gained interest in the winery.
Randy's at the track too, timing his car's performance.
Sure sounds good.
A minute 18 would be a fast lap. That's kind of our goal, what we're shooting for.
The cars come in off the track for fine-tuning.
We'll concentrate on trying to make the cars faster, make chassis adjustments, gear changes, things, trying to improve our lap times.
How is it?
A few measurements are taken and adjustments made. Then the car's ready for more laps. It's all in the pursuit of one goal.
To me, it's competition.
If we do well, we get to celebrate with the best wine in the Napa Valley. Yeah, it works out real well.
Crossing the finish line in wine country.